Can you hear me?
I can. All right.
Dan, thank you so much for coming on this today. What exactly is this? This is Smile Talk with Jacob, and we bring on masters of their crafts to speak to how they help people develop and enhance their self-esteem and confidence. I wanted to get you on here because you are able to articulate very well
Thank you.
your thoughts, your feelings, your actions. And it's something that I want to selfishly share with other people.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be exploited in a positive sort of fashion. Thank you.
Absolutely.
It's
So,
a pleasure.
with that, I wanted to ask, who is Dan Gibson?
Well, Dan Gibson, I think, was a really sensitive kid growing up. Had a great childhood. Absolutely great. The only complaint was that it wasn't long enough. It maybe ended a little abruptly, kind of early. But yeah, I grew up. I was a pretty sensitive kid, and then I feel that I was thrown into adulthood, or what appeared or felt like adulthood, really, really early, because I had my father passed away when I was 12 years old, and my mom was just a real fabulous mother after that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so strong. Like, she kept up with the career. She was a teacher. She raised us. She actually didn't really look for anybody else, so really took on a lot of the responsibility by herself. And I think because of that, it made us feel, not that she wanted us to think this, but it made us feel, my brother and myself, he's 1 year younger than me, that we had to grow up more quickly. And I felt sort of like I had to be, like the man of the house, sort of, which is really more, you're 12 years old, you're 13 years old, so you don't have to be the man of the house, but the amount of pressure that you can put on yourself because of that can stress you out and grow you up very, very quickly, and maybe even take away certain aspects of confidence that you might have otherwise had if maybe things didn't. If maybe things worked out in a more picture-perfect way. But, let's be honest, just about everybody that you'll ever have sitting in front of this microphone, and just about everybody that you'll ever have listening to this podcast, didn't grow up picture-perfect.
Absolutely.
And largely, I didn't have any major trauma or anything when I was a kid, but yet still came up with a bunch of reasons that I didn't like myself, or that I didn't feel like I was enough. And I think largely, like anyone can, you don't have to have, some people have different stories and upbringings, but I think even if you have something that doesn't sound like much trouble on the outside, there's still little ways that you can overthink things and then really develop issues inside of yourself. And so I like to think, when you say, who is Dan Gibson? I was a sensitive kid who grew up, had a few issues, still continue to have a few issues, as we all do. But I think I learned how to manage and deal with a lot of them, and maybe even eliminate some of them. And the ones that you don't eliminate, you learn how to deal with, or at least how to manage.
And one thing that I've come to realize is there are always going to be obstacles in your life. But there are things and people that get you through them.
Oh, absolutely.
So I wanted to ask you, who makes you smile?
Who makes me smile? Well, specifically, I guess without being too specific about say an individual name, people that make me feel good make me smile, right? And the more people that I can possibly have in my life that make me feel good to make me smile, the better, right? And you're one of them, absolutely, Jacob. I appreciate you. A, for having me on here. B, for believing that that I have something worth saying that other people might benefit from. And then C, most importantly, because you're part of a network of people that I have and that I know that do make me feel good about myself. And I think what I wanted to say is, when you say, who makes you smile? Well, people that celebrate me, right? And how do you get people that somebody listening might say, oh, well, people celebrate you. Quite lucky you are. Well,
Right.
the truth is, you have to celebrate other people if you want them to celebrate you back, right? If you want to be interesting to other people, you have to be interested in them first, right? And it's just, it reciprocates. But I think a lot of people, when it comes to smile talk and feeling good about yourself, and feeling good in front of other people, you should go out of your way to have more people that feel good around you. And most importantly, you try to make people feel good first, and then that comes back, right? I think there's certain things that you can do regardless of, because a lot of times people have issues, and some of them might be super, super serious traumatic issues that, that occurred during their childhood. Or maybe it's just something like some sort of grief, my father passed away when I was 12 years old, right? And so there was obviously a large amount of grief. And I like to think that given that specific thing, I was able to deal with it. But a lot of times people have issues that bring grief or other things, guilt, but we're going to use grief specifically, and they don't deal with it.
Yeah.
And then it turns and it festers and it becomes depression, and then you start to feel like all is lost, right? And I think no matter what happened to you in your life, whether you're grief-stricken or that's turned into some sort of depression, or you're dealing with some sort of trauma that occurred to you at any age, there's certain things that you can do to sort of combat those and start to feel better about yourself. Because I can just hear people saying, well, you said you had a great childhood, right?
Yeah.
So I can't listen to anything you say because I didn't have a great childhood.
Right.
Well, okay, I understand that, but regardless of the differences between the two of our upbringings, there are certain things that you can do to feel better about yourself. And I think one of them most specifically, and it's almost cliche to say, but diet and exercise.
Yeah.
If you're not happy about yourself and you're not happy about the way that you look or the way that you feel, there's probably a 60% chance that you don't really take care of yourself physically,
So before you get too far deep into that, because I think it's super important, I want to say, kind of like your answer is Exhibit A for exactly why I value so much of what you just said.
Thanks.
Because it's the way that you answered it that is a way that I would say most people wouldn't answer it, but one that's actually more helpful for people.
Thank you.
The way you just answered that allowed for potentially someone who may not have an answer right away, but you have just shared with them the ability on how they can find that person.
Yeah.
Or the things that they can look for.
Yeah.
That's
thanks.
huge.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And the reason I answered it that way was because I felt a slight, a hinge for a second, because if I say my mom makes me happy, well, some people that are listening, their mom might have passed away.
Yep.
If I say that my brother makes me happy, that can trigger a lot of maybe negative thoughts, right? Because of the difference in the specifics of each of our lives, you know? So really to be as general as possible, I think who makes me happy are the people that make me happy are the people that kind of celebrate me. And those people, regardless of the name, the family position, the friend that they are, most specifically, you can find those same people. It might not be your mom. For me, it is my mom. I have a very close relationship with my mom. But you can find other people to celebrate that also celebrate you. For example, and this is really kind of random, I saw an old friend of mine earlier today, just in passing. And he was like, man, Dan, you just have a vibe about you. You make me feel good. I feel like I'm glowing just sitting here talking to you. And it was a pretty invigorating conversation. It was a lot of fun, but I didn't particularly feel like I was doing anything. I didn't feel like I was giving off a certain vibe.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, at first I was almost like, is he for real? And after he was sincere about, just telling me how good he felt talking to me, I felt better about myself for that day. And believe it or not, that was about 2 hours before we even started this. And I thought, wow, isn't that really nice just to hear something like that? And in a way, is without it sounding too I don't know if this is the right word. Not everybody would agree with it, but like he was like celebrating me, right? And I'm like, wow, man,
Yeah.
that's really cool that this guy took the time to tell me how good he feels just talking to me. I must really have something, something to
Yeah.
give and something to share.
Yeah.
And, obviously the moment that he did that, I felt completely inclined to reciprocate
Yep.
and go back and tell him I've known this guy for years. I've known this guy when he was in between jobs. I've known this guy when they were having some marital problems, stuff. I've seen him on his ups and downs. So for him to take the time to really just tell me how great he felt about me, it really made me want to go back and say, hey man, I remember when you weren't doing so great with your job, when you weren't doing so great in your relationship. And there was a point where they were living was almost up in arms. They were renting at the time. Now they're homeowners. I brought up all these great things. I said, man, look over the last 7 years, look at how well you've done.
Yeah.
And, his childhood was not nearly as rich as the childhood that it is, that he's giving for him and his wife are putting together for their 7 or 8 year old daughter now. And so like, look, man, he's going in talking about how he didn't have all these things and he wants to make sure that his daughter has those things as she's growing up. And it was really nice to both hear how highly he thought of me, and then also to reciprocate how highly I thought of him. And to be honest, I wasn't really thinking about that when I first ran into him. But the fact that he took the time to be like, "Hey, man, you're awesome. You're making me glow, and there's a vibe about you." I thought, well, hey, man, I got to let you know this is the way that I feel too, right? And that was 2 hours ago. I'm still probably reeling from that 3 to 4 minute conversation.
Yeah.
It could have been 5. It wasn't that long, and it was random too.
Right. And that's where I go ahead and feel like another thing that I respect about you is like you're aware. Yeah. You're aware of that. And that's special because whether people are just preoccupied or potentially uncomfortable with having that conversation or going a little further to reciprocate, whatever it is, it's like people appreciate what it is that you just did. And people build people into better people.
Oh, absolutely.
Positivity, it's contagious.
Super contagious.
As contagious as a yawn. It's
right.
so much fun to surround yourself around either other like-minded people or just people that have similar energy to you. That's why I think it's super important to, look at everything that you have, be thankful for everything that you have, and realize that there are people that are not in your same situation, that are not as fortunate as you. So it's almost like, well, who am I to go ahead and complain?
Sure.
Who am I to go ahead and not make the most of what's been given to me?
Right.
I think that that's super powerful.
Oh, thank you. I think I have really a lot to say, given, who makes me feel good and what makes me feel good. And I think that there's a lot of general things. You can't speak too specifically, especially with such a wide, diverse audience. People have different situations in their lives. And so if I say, like my relationship with my mother and maybe my brother makes me feel good, that same exact statement might make someone else, might trigger someone else because of some events that happened. But I think bottom line, and without getting too crazy into it, one of the first things that you can do is develop more friends. But I heard a story about there's some younger people saying this. They were at a college party and there was a kid that really didn't talk to too many people, but he just walked around and kind of was taking selfies with friends, but not really talking to them. There wasn't a whole lot of human interaction. And then by the next day they saw the person telling me the story had seen on, I don't know if it was Facebook or Instagram, that there was like 20 different selfies and the caption said like, had a great time at the party last night. And the person telling me the story anecdotally said, he didn't even talk to anyone. He was barely even there besides these pictures, and so, maybe this made him feel good for likes or whatever it might be online. I think celebrating other people first
Yeah.
is going to make them come back and feel inclined to celebrate you. And one thing to remember, you might say, well, I'm an introvert, or I don't really make very many friends, or I don't go out of my way to talk to new people. You don't have to go talk to a new person. You can, anybody, whether it's someone that you work, someone that you walk past in your apartment building, someone that you see at the convenience store every day, take the time to just notice something about them.
Yeah.
Maybe their hair is done differently. Maybe their hair is just, maybe you always thought their hair was nice, but you never felt inclined to tell them that.
Yeah.
Go out of your way to find something nice to say to someone else about themselves.
Yeah.
Watch how it turns into them reciprocating it to you. And the more people that you do that with, the more and more I think you're going to find like positive relationships start to build. And like I said, I mean, that quick little 4 or 5 minute conversation that I had this morning, I didn't expect it, but it really did make me feel like, wow, hey, I really do have something to say.
Yeah.
Anyways, it was really good. And I think that the easiest way to make a friend is to remember that absolutely everybody wants to feel important. You want to feel important.
Yeah.
I want to feel important. Everybody out here, and it's all in different ways, right? And so going back to like how to win friends and influence people, you had, maybe John D. Rockefeller, who felt important based on Standard Oil and how well the empire was doing, and maybe there was a financial aspect to him feeling important. And then flipping over to John Dillinger, you had somebody who was robbing banks, who got a whole lot more than just the loot out of the robbery. Got a sense of importance, a sense of identity, right? He's a bank robber.
Yeah.
I think in the end of that first or second chapter, they talk about John Dillinger's on the run from the feds as they're chasing him, and he breaks into a house in some rural neighborhood. Well, it's not a neighborhood, it's just some rural area, and he breaks in and he says, I'm John Dillinger. I'm not here to hurt you, but I'm John Dillinger. Like, he wanted people to know who he was, right?
Yeah.
Everybody wants to feel important. Now, I'm not saying that you should go out and assist people robbing banks or assist people with, their oil companies or anything, but everybody ultimately wants to feel important. And so if you go out of your way to find out what it is that'll make someone feel important and then offer that, and I'm not saying give them money or obsessively go out of your way to make them feel important. It's just the nice, simple stuff that you can do. It'll come right back to you.
Because you had said, from reading that book and telling us about it, something about someone's name and what it means to them. Can you go deeper into that? Do you remember that?
A person's name is the sweetest sound in any language to their own ears, no matter what.
Yeah.
And remembering someone's name, you can actually do, it's a double-edged sword, remembering someone's name and using it articulately, not messing it up,
Yes.
Is a great way to have them remember who you are. But if you don't remember their name, or you mispronounce it or something, you might be doing yourself a little bit of a disservice. That doesn't mean to say, I met someone the other day, his name was Rich, and I accidentally called him Ron, and I profusely apologized, and I said, I can't believe I did that, and that's not who I am. And he was okay with it, of course, right? So everybody's going to be okay with it. And then I made sure from that moment on, for the next 2 hours that I was around him, that I didn't mess his name up, right? So I think that it's really important to remember someone's name and then use it as you're speaking to them.
Yeah.
It's amazing, Jacob, as you're sitting here and listening. The moment that I said your name, you probably feel like you want to perk up and you want to listen, right?
Yeah.
And that's exactly how it's going to feel in any conversation, you
Yeah.
know. And you throw it in there just real quick and whimsically, you don't have to throw a long pause and make it odd that you're using their name. But speaking to someone and then using their name, man, it just works wonders.
Absolutely.
As far as having them remember you and recognize you moving forward too.
Yeah.
And I got to admit, when people are talking to me and they say my name, I'm like, I didn't even think this person thinks that highly of me. And they're saying my name,
Yes.
especially a stranger.
Yes.
How did they even know my name? Or they heard my name once in passing. And then, they use it maybe twice during the couple of minute conversation. And I thought, wow, I guess I must be important. They took the time to remember my name, right?
Yes.
And so by doing that, reciprocating that out there, you're going to make other people feel great too.
Two of my favorite things to do at events is, if there was an event in which I met someone before and I remember their name, I'll be like, Doug,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'll just talk to them as if I'm talking to my best buddy,
Yeah.
right off the bat. But then also another funny thing that I do is at some of these like, like charity events and stuff like that, people are wearing name tags.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just be like, "Hey, Doug," or like, "Hey, John, how are you?"
Yeah. Right.
And they'll be like, some of them will go along with it.
Yeah.
It's like, "I'm doing well. How about you, Jacob?" But then some will be like,
How do you know?
do I know you?
Right.
And then I'm like, no,
but I
I'm
know your
Jacob.
name's John. Right. Yeah. Oh, that's a great icebreaker. I mean, in general, especially if you're at a networking event where you probably don't know anybody anyways, you don't have to feel too self-conscious about it. Just go up there and use their name,
And at the end of the day, like, no one really wants to go through that awkwardness of like, hey, what's your name? What do you do? How have you been doing?
Yeah.
What's new? So it's just like, that's
Skip
why skip it.
Yeah.
Just go ahead and I'm going to talk to you as if you're one of my best friends and we're getting right back into the conversation that we got out of yesterday.
Yeah.
Because why not?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Especially, and that's the other thing too, if people don't like feel comfortable making friends and putting yourself out there, like you said, kind of skip that awkward portion. I would actually say get used to also the awkward portion. Like going outside of your comfort zone in all aspects of life is usually where all the golden things are. They're just outside of your comfort zone, right? But going outside of your comfort zone more often will actually make, say, when it comes to meeting people, talking to people, making other people feel good. Sometimes it feels, I want to tell that person and make a compliment to that person, but it feels a little awkward. It feels a little uncomfortable. Now, I'm not saying don't do anything that you truly don't think you should do. But if you're just a little uncomfortable because it doesn't seem, I'm not that bubbly, I'm not that positive, that's not who I am. Well, do you want it to be who you are?
Right.
Do you want to be someone who's a little bit more positive and who's a little bit more, I guess we could say bubbly, but, magnetic?
Yeah.
Well, if you want to be somebody like that, I think you should go out and practice being that way often.
Yeah.
And you'll become better at it.
An example of what we were just talking about that I can bring in from what happened this past weekend, or maybe it was 2 weekends ago, I don't remember. I went out to downtown Cleveland with my brother.
Yeah.
And we went to this one like pop-up event in Ohio City. That was really cool. And afterwards, we wound up going to Town Hall. Sure. Okay. And while we were at Town Hall, we go in, they're like, it'll be a 25-minute wait. And we're like, okay, that's fine. Take our name, phone number, and then just let us know when it's ready.
Sure.
So we're hanging around just like the open area that's there. And I see this girl, and we follow each other on Instagram, and every once in a while, like, we'll DM each other, or like, she has like really good taste in music, so she'll put it on her Instagram story, and then I'll take that story and then I'll put it on my Spotify list. Nice. Funny enough, one of the songs that she recommended was one that made it onto like my top 5 Spotify Wrapped of like the most played song. But I guess where I'm going with this is I've never talked to her in real life. So I saw her and I was just like, why go through an awkward, like, hey, we follow each other on Instagram and we've never like really met before, but like, hi, I'm Jacob, So instead what I do is I go, how are you? Caleb, come here. You've got to meet this girl. She has the best taste in music.
Oh,
and I was
there
like,
you go.
So-and-so, this is my brother, Caleb, this is, and that was fun. But you know what it did? It skipped that whole awkward part.
Yeah.
Because why go through it?
Yeah, I agree.
Go through it? But that's not to discount what goes into walking up to that person and acting in the way that you feel as though you can confidently talk to that person in the way you just did.
Oh,
that takes a lot. It takes a lot. And quite frankly, I don't know why or how I'm comfortable enough with doing that to just random people or these people who I've had vague interactions with, like even something through social media. Mm-hmm. But it's something to be said about the level of confidence that you have. And with you having been a personal trainer before, I was curious of your thoughts and connection between your physical fitness and that leads to your mental fitness, which leads to your confidence.
I think the physical attributes, while they don't mean everything to confidence, they certainly help, and they develop like a foundation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't feel good about the way that you look, and we're all self-conscious, you can
Yep.
be in great shape and still not like the way you look. But if you don't feel good about the way that you look and the way that you feel, I think that's going to convey just a little lack when you're out there talking to people. And so confidence from taking care of yourself physically, it comes in many different ways. And I definitely want to make a point that when I say taking care of yourself physically, I don't mean being ripped with a six-pack abs and being in perfect Adonis-like form.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. Believe it or not, if you still got a lot of stuff going on in your head, but you've worked out your Adonis-like physique, you're probably still going to be suffering. And you're actually going to wonder why you're still suffering, because you thought when you got in the apex physical shape, you thought everything would work out. Truth is, you probably still got more to work on, because having money's not everything. Having a six-pack and a perfect physique isn't everything. But let's go back to the physical aspects. When you work out, your blood flows obviously more efficiently. It's going to carry oxygen to all of your cells. Your body's going to feel more awake. It's going to carry waste away from your cells, right? So you're just more efficient. It's kind of like having a neat and tidy house.
Yeah.
If you walk into a house, into your living room or your bedroom, and there's piles of clothing everywhere and cobwebs, and it's dark and dimly lit, it's not a great environment, and you don't feel very energetic. But if you walk into your room and it's nice and neat and tidy, maybe it smells nice, then you're going to feel a little bit better in your room. Well, your body kind of works that way too, right? So taking care of yourself physically and having like you don't have to be crazy, but a somewhat of an exercise regimen, I think is going to get the blood flowing. It's going to make you feel more happy, get your endorphins going.
Yep.
So your confidence will increase. Even if you're not in peak physical shape, your confidence is still going to increase almost instantly after you're done, like kind of working out or getting some exercise going. And then what I think is just the absolute most important aspect that I've ever taken from working out or any kind of physical exercise, especially being a personal trainer, is that we focused on form, right?
Yeah.
So like if you're doing like a bicep curl or a squat or 90% of the exercises, most of it involves you having your chest out and your shoulders back and you're standing up straight. We would always tell people to imagine you have a string tied to your chest and a string tied to the top of your head. And the string to your chest is pulling outward and upward just a little bit.
Yeah.
And your head is pulling upward. So you're kind of standing with this, maybe this chest out, shoulders back sort of look. I don't know if you could hear me, but the chest out, shoulders back sort of look. And not only does that make you feel better, but the posture is just... Sometimes I've looked at myself in pictures, and I just happen to have good posture because because of working out. And boy, I like the way that I look, and I like the way that I feel.
Yeah.
And sometimes, every once in a while, I can remember somebody commented on like how great of posture I had. And,
You're like, let's go, let's go.
I was like, man, I didn't even think about that, but thank you.
Yeah.
That's actually why I'm even talking about it right now. Is
right.
The exercise and the working out portions are wonderful for developing confidence, and not because of just weight loss or muscle gain, which are usually the two main reasons that people want to work out. You're either too big or you're too small, and you want to fix that. But most importantly, like going along the journey, you're going to have the blood flowing, you're going to have endorphins coming out, you're going to have better posture, and that in turn is going to make you feel better, and it's going to make other people receive you better too. Think about it. If somebody sits here and they got their shoulders closed and they're leaning forward and their head's down, well, I don't look very happy, and maybe you don't feel like you want to go over and talk to that person, especially if you're happy, right? But if somebody's out here, they've got their chest out, their shoulders back, a big smile, they have good posture, they stand up straight. It's just that's the type of person I think that's the beginning of a magnetic personality.
Well, that reminds me of I was at this event. There was a discussion at the table, and one representative or one person from each table had to talk about the main points that they covered.
Okay.
All of them are just like, we're in a big conference room, a big conference center.
Yeah.
And, you have all these people that are like, well, what we did was, you know.
Yeah,
So
right.
they're like, they're sitting down
Yeah.
and their voice isn't being projected. Meanwhile, like it comes up to
Acting
me
meek. Yeah.
and, you know, I stand up.
Yep.
People are sitting there. I stand up,
Mm-hmm.
open my chest, take a deep breath, and then let it out.
Absolutely. And
And-
I
yeah.
mean, that right there, you might be scared on the inside,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah.
Standing up. But the moment that you stood up, having good posture, you stand
Yeah.
up, you're addressing people, even if you're scared on the inside,
Yeah.
I will definitely tell you that from the outside looking at that person, you're thinking, wow, that person really believes in themselves.
Yes.
You might be scared and trembling
Yes.
on the inside. And, you know, so people say fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
I would say, and I'm sure others have heard this too, fake it till you become it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Act confident until you become confident, you
Right.
know, and one of the best ways is to have great posture, have a great physical amount of energy.
Mm-hmm.
And so like that involves obviously like make sure you get enough sleep.
Yep.
You know, I mean, there was a time I think in my life where I was definitely sleeping 3 to 4 hours a night, but if you don't have enough sleep and you don't have enough energy, I think that you're really going to have a hard time feeling good throughout the day.
Yeah.
And most importantly, feeling energetic, because I'm sure that a lot of people can relate where you give yourself a great pep talk and, you know, I'm going to have a great day. You know, it's going to be a great day, and maybe you want to go out and you want to meet a person or you want to make some friends or you want to, whatever it is that you want to do in your life. But if you don't have enough energy, sometimes that opportunity comes in the day and you're just not ready for it because
Yeah.
you're tired or you're feeling lethargic and mopey. So I would definitely say focusing on your body and you know, your exercise regimen and your diet are very important, not just from a weight loss or a weight gain perspective, but mostly for the posture, for the endorphins, and feeling energized throughout your day.
I also think it's super important to acknowledge that you don't need to feel or be that 100% of the time.
No, you're definitely not obligated to be that way. You know, as a matter of fact, if you are, you know, like we're talking about confidence right now, and I'll be honest, I feel very confident right now, but there
Yeah.
are times when I don't feel confident,
Yeah.
and that's okay.
Exactly.
You have to, you can't beat yourself up all the time. Matter of fact, most of us that don't feel confident, or when we don't feel confident, it's because we're beating ourselves up, you know, and you definitely have to give yourself a break because you don't have to be super confident and super, you know, energized all the time.
That's the biggest thing is I love being happy. You know,
Yeah.
I think that by me making an effort to see the good in things and to be happy and to spread positivity, I do think that has a positive impact on me, and I can say that it has a positive impact on the people around me.
Yeah.
But the moment I'm either, I don't even need to be having a bad day as much as it is like I'm just not that 100% or that 110% like ready, happy, let's do this.
Right.
But then you get the question of like, Jacob, what's wrong? I'm like,
Well,
nothing's wrong. Nothing's wrong. I'm just like, not like, oh yeah, like let's get it, you know?
right. Well, that's okay, right? So
Yeah.
you're going from not being overly, or let's say 100% positive, to maybe being more neutral, right?
Yes.
This is kind of what you're saying?
Yes.
And someone might ask, Jacob, what's wrong? When you're not really in, let's say, if this is 100, this is 0, you're not back into the negatives over
Right.
here of bad.
Right.
You're just, you know, maybe a little unenergized or whatever it might
Yeah.
be. But I think there is something, and that's okay,
Yeah.
by the way, to be, you know,
Yeah.
neutral. You don't have to be 100% positive all the time. But there is something I think worth addressing now that you brought that up,
Yeah.
is, you know, while you can be neutral, you don't have to go all the way over to the back to the negative numbers, right? So we're 0 to 100 over here, and then we're 0 to maybe negative 100 over here.
Yeah.
And what I really want to address is that it's really easy to be hypocritical of yourself, right? So let's say, you know, one of the things that I do, or that you could maybe do, is I like to wake up and, man, what a great morning, you know, and I'll say it out loud.
Yeah.
I'll say, oh, what a great morning it is. It's going to be a great day.
I love
you know?
that. Yes.
And then this is one that, you know, it's kind of came in a few years ago, and I say, it's such a great day. This might even be the greatest day of my life.
Yeah.
You gotta just leave it open and
Yeah.
believe it, right?
Yeah.
Now, that's a great way to start your day, but think about if you do an audit of all of your thoughts throughout the rest of the day, and I'm guilty of this too. This is something that we all have to work on, and you're not gonna fix this in one day. But if you were to audit every single thought after you woke up and you said those first 3 sentences, wow, what a great morning, it's gonna be a great day, it may even be the greatest day of my life. Now, maybe 10 minutes later, you get out of the shower, you step on a Lego, and maybe you fall or you hurt your toe, and you say something, you know, it doesn't matter what you say, but you might say something kind of negative. And then you go out and you get in your car and you're on your way to work. And I'm also guilty of this, as I think many people are, of like getting a little angry with someone, you know, people driving slow in the fast lane or whatever. And then you start talking about them in ways that you wouldn't talk about them if they were standing there looking you in the face. Yeah. So that's somebody's mother. That's somebody's, you know, family member. And then, so let's say you woke up, you thought it was going to be a great day. You got mad because you stepped on the Lego. You're mad because now you're a couple minutes behind to work, and you're thinking all of these negative things, right? And maybe by the time you get into work, something's going wrong. Maybe the machine isn't working, and you might even say something like, "Oh, I hate my life."
Yeah.
How hypocritical is that thought, or those strings of thoughts that you had from the moment that you woke up in the morning when you were saying it might even be the greatest day of my life? So while it's okay to be neutral and to not be zooming with positivity all the time, I think it's really important to audit your thoughts throughout the day. And remember, if you woke up and you planned on having a good day and it might even be the greatest day of your life, don't go and start scribbling over that thought pattern that you started with all of these negative ideas. And I'm guilty of it. You know, no matter how much I prepare, it's probably going to be a situation where, you know, I've got somebody asking me a question here, someone distracting me on something else, and whatever I'm holding in my hands is very, very fragile, right? So you get the stress that builds up, and I'm guilty of it, to where I say, oh, you know, I hate this, I don't like this, you know, and sometimes you say those things like, I hate my life, or I can't. You really don't, but you would, if you knew how powerful those small, quick subconscious thoughts were, you would be way more careful to not let them go out. It's kind of like, imagine you have, maybe you have an animal that you're trying to train, you know, I don't know, to stay inside of a playpen, right? And so when you're standing there, you want this animal, or maybe it's a child, and you don't want the child to get out of the playpen, the little fence that you've made inside of your living room or something. And you'll stand there and you'll watch them, and you'll watch them kind of go and try to crawl over and get out of the gate. And you'll say, no, right? That's almost in a way really what you should be doing to your own thoughts throughout the day. Because it's just the hypocrisy of saying, I'm happy with myself, I love myself, you know, this might be the greatest day of my life, and then going over and starting to just throw the exact opposite negative thoughts out. And maybe you're even doing more of that, the negative side, than you were of the positive. It's going to be very difficult to continue on with that positivity. And I think that's a big thing. I want to address that. And I'm not perfect at it, but I'm aware of it. And I want to address that because there are so many people in my own personal life, and I would imagine out there in the rest of the world, if not beyond the world, of people that start off in a positive manner, but then they just let all of these negative things come in, and they start to think about those negative things throughout the day, and then maybe things that take away their own confidence. And you know what you really should be doing is saying to your mind, we said we're not going to entertain those thoughts today. We're going to entertain the thoughts of growth and expansion and thoughts of confidence. We're not going to entertain the thoughts of lack and contraction. Right. You're either expanding or you're contracting. Really with every thought, if you think about it, no matter what you're thinking, there's always a little sponsor thought in the back of your mind. And it's either, you know, expansion or contraction, or you could say love or fear, you know. Whatever you're thinking is either going to make you feel good or it's going to make you feel bad. And really what you want to focus on is thinking things that make you feel good. And I also want to address, I can hear somebody saying, yeah, but you don't understand my life. Look, I get it. I understand that, you know, something terrible may have happened, but you need to focus on finding the silver lining. And trust me, even if you can't find the silver lining right now, at least leave your mind or your heart open to the possibility that there is a silver lining in whatever your traumatic or negative event might be. And I think that just leaves a little bit of an opportunity for some positive, something confident, something to come through that will help you feel more confident or positive overall.
And I would like to say, like, kind of exhibit B in regards to why I think that you're able to articulate ideas so well is because you're not only able to talk about them, but you answered 3 of my questions before me even having to ask them.
Thanks.
And that was like, is it enough to just go ahead and acknowledge it? What more could be done, or what is it that you should do? And then what if you have both of those covered, but you still feel like you're alone, and you covered all 3 of those. Like, you've thought this through, but it like you said, it flows, like it just comes out. And I think that sometimes the people who are struggling with the topic that we were just talking about don't know how to approach the extended explanation and questions that you provided.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah.
And this reminds me of kind of being a personal trainer. There were a lot of people, 90% of the people that came into our gym was for weight loss.
Mm-hmm.
This wasn't exactly this wasn't like a strength and conditioning gym.
Yeah.
But most of the people that came in were coming in for weight loss. And most of the people had no idea what to do or how to do it when it came to, losing weight, right? And so they would try, and they would get on their own, and they would get frustrated. And from the outside looking in, it's fairly obvious to see what people are doing. It's the same in my life. I mean, if I were to take a step outside of who I really am, or the story that I'm playing inside of my head, and actually look at myself, I think things are sometimes a little bit more clear. But that's a lot easier said than done.
Yeah.
But when you're looking at other people from a calm mindset, from a calm and collected mindset, it's kind of easy to see what's going on with others. But one thing that I did notice was with the weight, at this time, it was mostly focused on weight loss, the personal training clients and such, was that they had no idea what to do, and it was almost like they were a little sailboat with no oars out in the middle of the lake or the ocean, and a big massive thunderstorm is going on, and the wind is blowing you in one direction, and then it's blowing you in the next direction the next minute, maybe 2 directions at the same time, right? And that's a lot of what's going on in your thoughts, and you wake up and it's going to be a good day, and then, oh, this person cut me off on the road, oh, I hate that person and their family, and then, oh, why doesn't this work out? And then you start, poor me, why me, right? And so what you're doing is you're sending different thoughts into different directions, and you're really finding, and by the end of the day, you're going to be just where you were in the beginning, right? And so if you can stay on one track of thoughts, and I would definitely advise to stay on the positive track of thoughts, that will help you at least curb. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that this is a 100% always works fix. There's some moments where I just think, I'm just not happy with myself or the way things are going. But if you can focus, if you can bring yourself to focus on the thoughts that make you feel good, even though there's thoughts that make you feel bad, that's okay. You don't have to act like they don't exist. You just put more attention to and give more attention to the thoughts that make you feel good. You're going to be a little less like that sailboat being whipped around and tossed around in the ocean, because your plan or your where you believe you're going to keep your thoughts is kind of like your oar. You have an idea instead of being whipsawed all over the place by whatever random thoughts come into your mind throughout the day. Because let's be honest, I would imagine 70% of my thoughts are negative. That come into the day. And they could be anything. This person's taking too long at the stop sign, and I'm behind him, or whatever it is. You really want to stop focusing on things that make you upset. And that's hard to do.
Absolutely.
Because you tend to start holding these things that make my life difficult. You start to hold on to those things, and you almost identify with those things. And I would suggest and make the argument that you should try to cling to and adhere yourself to the thoughts that make you feel good.
Mm-hmm.
You might say, well, I don't have enough thoughts that make me feel good. That's okay.
Yeah.
The more and more that you think about it, and the more and more that you look for thoughts that make you feel good and things that make you feel good, the more they will appear. And the more you go out and try to make other people feel good, the more they will in turn reciprocate and go out of their way to make you feel good. And I just think that that's something that we don't talk about enough, is that, we're a social species, and we need to be around other people, and being around other people is very contagious to us, whether they're good or they're bad influences. We're very susceptible to them. And so if you can go out and you can make other people feel good, give off that contagion, I think it's going to come right back.
I think one thing that I want to bring light to, and what you and I have spoken to before, is the moment of acceptance to make the change. You had said that a lot of it was a lot of the programs within your gym were surrounded around weight loss.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a lot to get that person that knows that they need to make a change to actually get to the gym, let alone with the personal trainer.
Yeah.
I've had a recent, triggering event for change that has gotten me to working out more. But I was curious what your thoughts are on what truly makes people change. Is it their environment? Is it more inside their own head? Is it something that someone else may have done or said to them? What do you take from what it takes for someone to change?
The people who were the most successful in the context of like making a change were the people who had hit rock bottom. When you're at a point in your life to where you say, I just can't live with myself anymore, right? Then don't, right? You have a great opportunity to change who you are and who you want to be moving forward. And the moment that you have had enough pain to say, I don't want to be who I've been being up until this point, and you might not believe it yet, but open your mind to it. In this life, if I wanted to change who I am moving forward tomorrow, I can do that.
Yeah.
And you have to stay on those thoughts. Just like we said, you can't be whipsawed. And, if I want to go and be, I'm really happy where I'm at as far as the things going on in my life. But let's say that I wanted to change who I am, and maybe I wanted to go and be, I don't want to say an architect or a doctor, because people are going to say, oh, that's going to take 8 years. And well, I truly believe that I can do anything if I put my mind to it. And if I did decide that I wanted to do that and put in the next 8 to 12 years, I absolutely could. And I can change my mind to do that. It's not exactly something that I want to do, but I can change who I am moving forward. And one of the easiest times to make that change, like, for example, I grew up, I kind of struggled with weight issues as a teenager. Looking back, I wasn't really as heavy as I thought I was, but I definitely thought I was heavy, and it sort of affected my confidence. And I'm sure a lot of people out there can relate, to having confidence issues with their own physical bodies growing up. And at one point, I think it was, I had been working out. It was like maybe 20, 21. I had been working out, and then I was going to the bars with my friends and stuff. And this is nothing against my friends, but I was just around them. So what are we doing? The bar closes. We're going to Taco Bell at 3 o'clock in the morning. And so I was just yo-yoing. I was going up and I was going down in my weight loss. And for me personally, that was something that I really felt like I had to get under control. I had to, not under control. For me, I had to win it, right? I had struggled so much that I never became the person yet that I wanted to be physically. And I decided that, I was just not going to live with myself anymore. I was going to get myself to a point where I was happy with the funny thing is I got myself to where I was happy physically, and then I realized that I hadn't really worked on the mental things. So even though I was in good shape after that, I still didn't quite feel good yet, but that's sort of a different tangent. My point was I was going to get myself in better shape or get myself to a point physically where I liked who I was, or I was going to die trying. When you are being held underwater against your will, all you want is air.
Yeah.
And this, I think E.J. Thomas is a inspirational. So this kind of comes from him. I'm paraphrasing him, but if you heard this before, this comes from E.J. Thomas. But when you're being held underwater, all you want is air. All you want is a breath of air because you can't breathe. You're not thinking about what football team is playing the game on Monday night, what so-and-so is doing. So all you care about is getting air. When you want to change your life as bad as you want that air while you're being held underwater, then you will succeed at what that change is. So you have to want it bad enough.
Yeah.
And your life, if it gets bad enough to the point where you just don't want to live with yourself anymore, given the current circumstances or the state of mind that you're in, that's good because you now have the desire and just the sheer want to change your life, right?
Yeah.
If you feel a little pain, but it's not really that bad, think about it.
Oh,
You're not going to really make a change. Oh, that's a little annoying, and I'm not really too happy with this.
What are you talking about, New Year's resolutions right now?
Yeah, right.
Because that's all those really are.
Oh, man,
That change does not come from within. That comes from something that they say that you're supposed to do because it's the start of the new year. No triggering event has happened for them to acknowledge or come to think that is actually what they want to do.
Right. And so it becomes like a fad, and the New Year's resolution people are in there till about March, and then it goes back to normal. But when the people are I kind of lost my point where I was just going to say something. No. I had a point based off of what you said, and I'm trying to remember it. Can you jog my memory real quick?
New Year's resolutions, making change coming from within, having triggering events, people not sticking to what they're doing.
Yeah, that's okay. Thanks. Yeah. So based, on the New Year's resolution, it doesn't really stick.
Yeah.
For me, I was with the weight thing that I was saying, I was yo-yoing for about 3 years. I was going up and I was going down. I was going up and I was going down. And all I wanted to do was win. I wanted to be somebody that I was finally happy about, at least on the outside. We're just talking about the physical. And it wasn't so bad for the first couple of years. So I was still going out to the bars. I was still going to Taco Bell at 3 o'clock in the morning because I didn't have enough pain. After 3 years of trying to get to this goal of mine, but not succeeding based on me just kind of doing it, 50%, I didn't have everything in. I said, that's it. Like, I am going to get this goal taken care of, and I am going to overcome this. I could never get myself physically to a point where I felt confident about myself. And the truth is, and I've said this already a couple times, that I don't think getting in physical shape, great physical shape only, is going to be the true key to confidence. If anything, it's probably going to make you cocky at first, and then you might even turn some people off, because you really need to work on why you're not confident mentally as well. But I do want to say that for me, a lot of it had to do with me feeling like I was not quite who I wanted to be physically. And I'll tell you what, man, 3 years of trying and 3 years of self-sabotage, I decided this is it. I am going into it. I stopped, and I'm not saying that everybody should do this, but I stopped hanging. And if my friends hear this right now, most of my good friends, actually, I've talked about them with this. I needed to pull back. I needed to fall away from who I was hanging out with at the time, because it's not to say that they weren't good for me. I was letting them influence me in ways that were taking me away from my goals. So I needed to pull back. And I needed to become who I want. In order to become who I wanted to be, I needed to pull back from those around me that were influencing me in ways that weren't going to get me to my goal. Because as I'm sure people have heard before, you are the average of the 5 closest people that you keep around you. And so you generally, whatever the goals are that you want in your life, you should probably spend more time around people that either are closer toward achieving those goals or maybe already have achieved those goals. I'm not saying to change your complete circle of friends or your family or anything like that, but try to spend time around people that have the goal that you already have, or they're closer towards it. I think that's super important. And so for me, one of the biggest things was after 3 years of yo-yoing and not getting myself where I wanted physically, I decided that's it. I'm willing to pull back from my friends. I had a girlfriend at the time that maybe wasn't helping me toward that goal either, and I was a little younger. We ended up splitting up. I was convicted.
When you work hard enough and long enough towards the goals that you've set for yourself, you're not only going to reach them, but you're going to come to a point of abundance.
Yeah.
And an abundance of something can lead to the feeling that something's missing.
That's definitely a human condition
Yeah.
in a way, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Once you get that, you're going to spend time. And that's the one thing I think, you know, whatever it is, whether it's weight loss or it's, you know, chasing money or a career or whatever it is, you know, most of our dopamine drips that we get, they come from the active pursuit.
Yes.
They don't really come from the win.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
Matter of fact, once you get that win, then the natural human condition is, okay, I'm here. What's next?
Yep.
And you expand,
Yep.
right? And I think that's a good thing, right? Because, you know, I think this is actually from Joe Rogan, but he said how like a yellow jacket, you know, a colony of yellow jackets will build a nest and they'll make a very great nest, you know. But the next year, they're going to make the same exact great nest.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas humans, we're always doing things better and
Yeah.
faster, smarter or stronger or more efficiently. So, you know, if we build, you know, think of technology in the last few years, you know, we don't just stop and continue to do the same things that we were doing in 2010. Every year we're making leaps and bounds, and we continue to improve. And I think that it's natural to have a certain goal, whatever it is that you think is going to make you more confident, you know, getting yourself in better shape, getting more friends and richer personal relationships. Once you get those things, you're going to say, well, what if? And that's a good thing. And you should feel okay. And I think that's something that we don't, like as a culture, we don't really address that much. Like you should be content and you should be happy with what you have. Well, yes, you absolutely should. But to say that you should be content to where you don't want to strive for more, I think is sort of like doing all humans a disservice.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't know when you get to that point of success that you're going towards, like you don't know how you're going to feel then and what you're going to want then. And truthfully, like that in motivation and those dopamine hits and the things that make you, I'm on my way towards my goal, those do tend to like drop off once you hit your goal.
Yes.
And so it is good to have another goal after that.
And that's kind of what I meant to say is living a life of abundance can lead to the feeling of emptiness.
Sure.
That is more so what I meant to say, because, you know, it's like that's the thing. It's like there are people who have worked extremely hard to get to where they are, and then boom, they get there, and then that's where they go ahead and either start comparing themselves to other people that are in other positions who have things that they found out they don't have, whether that was a part of the process that it took for them to get there, or whether it was just something that they never had that they're now acknowledging.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do certainly agree with that. I mean, I am hugely guilty of that. I mean, when I was, I mean, I guess this is like kind of personal, but when I had those weight issues, you know, it really affected my confidence with like girls at the time, you know. When I was a teenager, my father passed away, so I didn't really have a dad that I could ask like about this whole saga. You know, I had my mom who was very sweet and loving and helpful, but I mean, you know, I being a boy, I didn't have like that fatherly influence, or maybe even that fatherly assurance that would just say, hey man, you're doing fine, you're doing all right, you know. So one thing was like weight, you know, I wanted to get myself in better shape because I wanted to be more like appealing, you know, obviously to the opposite sex. And I thought that when I got in shape that I was going to just instantly feel happy, feel excited, feel content all the time. People would start looking at me differently. And like, in a way they do, but something is to your point, man, I felt almost just as not great as I did before I got, you know, what I was going after. And I think that's sort of to say like, you need a balance in your life, you know. Just going after one thing and thinking that it's going to be like the miracle cure it's most often going to lead or going to not be the case.
Yes.
Like one thing in your life. So like if you think that getting in better shape is going to make you more confident in every aspect of your life, well, maybe you're in better shape, but maybe you still struggle with speaking in front of strangers,
Yeah.
or maybe you still struggle with making friends. Maybe
Yeah.
maybe you struggled so much before you got, say, getting in shape or whatever that goal was, that now, even though you got it, you still didn't change who you see yourself as.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I remember I had been, I tell you, I was a heavier kid when I was younger, and I ended up losing a lot of the weight. I was even leaner at one point years ago. And I remember I leaned over at a friend's house to grab something, and I covered my stomach, because I was afraid that would show. And the truth that I realized right then and there was that I still saw myself as that kid from a few years ago. Even though I had changed it and other people didn't see me that way, I still saw myself as like an undesirable, person. And so that's why I was saying before, like, the physical aspects that you get that getting in shape, I think you should really use the physical aspects of like your energy, your posture, your endorphins, and then also getting in shape. Those are the biggest, most helpful things, because the energy, the posture, the endorphins are going to give you the confidence to work into your interpersonal relationships. Because just having your physical attributes, your body in order, but not having like rich personal relationships put together, if you have no good people that really care about you, and why is that, by the way? That's probably because you don't, some people might argue, but you may not care enough about other people if you don't have enough people that care deeply about you. And so that's one thing that, you have to be balanced. You can't just work out, or you can't just focus on making more friends, because then you might start getting yourself to the point where like you placate other people just to say that you have a bunch of friends, and maybe they do celebrate you, but you still don't like other certain aspects about yourself, right? So there is a big balance, and to think that it's just that there's one magic pill of getting in shape or making more friends, or I definitely am not a big fan of selfies on social media. I think sometimes scrolling through Facebook, I start to feel bad about myself because I'm comparing my real life with everyone else's highlight reel.
Oh, yeah. And it's not even a highlight reel. It's not real at all.
Yeah, right.
Social media is so fake.
Right.
It's so fake. It's entertaining.
Sure.
That's for sure. But to go ahead and think that any picture that's posted on social media is even close to what's actually happening at that moment in time, it wouldn't be an accurate representation for, I would say, probably over 90% of the people who are posting it. Yeah,
I would agree with that. And I would also say that some of the greatest experiences that I've had, especially with other people, and I don't mean with them being in the same room as them, but for example, like that conversation that I talked about earlier here today, where I really just felt like enlightened, and he told me there was a vibe about me that made him feel good. I thought, wow, like that's great. That was in person. That wasn't online. That wasn't, because sometimes you supplicate and you placate people online, and you say things that aren't necessarily true, or maybe you're saying them because you want other people to read it or something. Yeah. No, the true like best events that I have like interpersonally are usually in person. Yeah. And I think that's like important to say, because not to say that social media doesn't have like its place, but too often, especially when it comes to confidence, oh man, social media can just play a real wreck throughout your confidence, and no matter what you have, no matter how many friends you have, no matter how, I'm not talking about Facebook friends, no matter how many real friends you have, no matter how much you're in good shape, no matter how much money you have, you spend enough time going through social media, you'll start finding something to feel bad about yourself for.
100%.
Yeah. I do have one other thing that I think is really important that I found. My advice is to find something that you're good at and really exploit that. I'm not saying don't have a balanced life, but really be happy about something that you're good at, and find something that you're good at, and let other people know that you're good at it and that you enjoy doing it. Yeah. And they will in turn remember you for that, and maybe even talk about how good you are at something. And the amount of confidence that you get out of other people recognizing you being above average or great at something is just absolutely wonderful. But I didn't really have an identity. I didn't have anything that I was good at, or I didn't have anything. I did. Truth is, I did, but I didn't have anything that really stuck out there. I didn't have things that other people would think of me when a certain topic or situation came up. For example, my brother was in a rock band. You know, I'm not saying that I wanted to be in a rock band, but I thought it was really cool that other people would think of him and think of him as an identity, like he had something, right? And so what I really want to impart is to be above average, right? My brother was above average, both as a drummer, but also above average in terms of his identity at that point. You know, other people knew who he was. They thought he was good at something. The amount of confidence that he had at the time, I mean, he still has, but at the time it was just, you know, it was just overflowing and pouring out. And I felt kind of small, right? Because I didn't have anything or something at that time that really gave me a sense of identity. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to find a skill. I wanted to find an identity. I wanted to find something that I was good at that other people would recognize that I was good at. You know, which ultimately did lead me to my career now in professional home inspections and things like that. And I will tell you, absolutely, my ability to do it is purposely very high. You should find something that you do really, really enjoy and that you feel you can have a sense of identity behind, because that confidence is really that's going to give you confidence. I would go as far as saying, you know, there's well, other people might say differently, but I always think of a triangle, and I always think of the 3 different points, not necessarily in this order, but you know, you have your physical attributes like taking care of your body, emotional side, which largely focuses around rich personal relationships. For me, I think the financial aspect is one of those 3 tips of the triangle.
It's another reason why I just think it's so important to hear from people like you, because there aren't enough people talking like that.
And let me stop and back that up, especially if there's anybody listening that thinks that they can't relate because this person sounds like they've really got it all together. So I was engaged. I was in a long, serious romantic relationship. We were engaged, and it ended up not working out. And that rocked me. That was pretty recent. That rocked me. I mean, let me tell you, like all that stuff, all that confidence that I had, you know, for a little while, man, it went out the door. You know, I felt small. I felt undesirable. I felt like everything that I had to say, nobody really wanted to hear. And I felt low. So I want to like preface this by saying that you're not going to feel 100% all the time, right? So like we were saying, like here's neutral, here's your 100%, and here's your 100%. I was going down towards the negative side, right? Okay, my romantic life just really got rocked for a second there. It's upside down, and I'm a little messed up about it. But I still had those other aspects, right? Yes, the physical aspect is important. Yes, the career / financial aspect, you know, that stuff is important. That makes you feel good. And then like your rich personal relationships also, I think these are, you know, it's like a trifecta in my opinion. And I would go as far as saying that maybe you have a 5-pointed star if you're married and you have children, because, you know, being a great husband or wife or being a great mother or father, I think can also give you a huge amount of confidence, you know. But that's the other thing. Other people still thought that I was great at my occupation. Other people still thought that I had important, you know, things to say. Fortunately, I'm still healthy, right? So I'm still able to go out and kind of like work out and exercise, and not about the weight thing, but more about keeping myself energized, keeping myself feeling good. So when that breakup happened, it wasn't like I had to go and completely fix myself. You know, I did most of the fixing over the last 10 to 13 years, I would say, 10 to 15 years. So fortunately, I did have these other aspects of my life that were still relatively intact,
Yeah.
you know? And so I think that's a great multifaceted way to keep yourself confident. And I want to be 100% transparent.
Yeah.
There were days, there
Oh,
was
yeah.
a dark night of the soul for a minute there,
Yeah.
where I really did feel low. But you know what? I had these other aspects that I have been working on for the last 10
Yeah.
to 15 years that I was able to fall back on and feel, thankfully, that not all is lost.
Yes.
You know, and so that's another important thing that I really want to address is that, you know, you can't just do one thing.
Yeah.
You know, you can't just chase one magic fix for confidence.
Yeah. And I want to take a moment for you to share where people can find you, how they can get in touch with you if they have questions and that's something that you're willing to take on and go ahead and answer. How can they get a hold of you?
Well, you know, most of what I've really been doing is business related. So
Yeah.
I would tell you the easiest ways to get a hold of me if you're looking for, you know, an inspector or some professional aspect. But, you know, I mean, I have a Facebook page. It's Daniel W. Gibson. And that's another thing. You know, I'm kind of embarrassed about my middle name. It's Walter. Right.
What's wrong with Walter?
Well,
I like
nothing's wrong with it, but
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, when I was younger, I wouldn't even have felt comfortable saying that,
Yeah.
you know? And so that's kind of one of the other things is like, just don't be afraid to say things about yourself that embarrass yourself. Because the truth is, like you just said, you're like, that's not even embarrassing,
No.
right? I was named after my grandfather. I just always thought I
Yeah.
had a silly old school name, you
Yeah.
know? But the truth is that I was embarrassed about it, and there was no reason for me to be, as I said that just now, because
Right.
you don't care. And the truth is, I think everybody knows this, hears this, but doesn't remember is everyone else is just worried about themselves.
Yes.
No one's thinking about you as much as you're
Right.
thinking about you.
Right.
You know, you think your hair is getting a little thin. People probably are more worried about what's going on in their life
100%.
than anything else. And that takes clarity, and not every moment of every day will you have that clarity, and that's okay. You don't have to be confident all the time. But where can people get a hold of me? I would say, you know, I'm Daniel Walter Gibson. And really, at this point, it's just, I mean, you probably have to reach out to me on Facebook.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, you know, because right now, until I have like a YouTube page up for
Yeah.
working on these sorts of things.
Dan recently came into some podcast equipment, so he may very well be starting his own soon.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, gosh, how long? We've been going for almost, over an hour.
Dude,
So
that's wild.
this is awesome.
I hope this comes out well.
I couldn't be more appreciative of you coming
Thanks.
on today and sharing every bit of exactly what I knew that you were capable of, but you gave me even more, which I so much appreciate.
Oh, man, thanks. I really appreciate that.
So what we have going on right now is we're just producing this content on YouTube and then Instagram at the moment, doing the full podcast upload on YouTube, and then we're doing YouTube shorts and then Instagram Reels. And then I think what I'll do is I'll wind up going ahead and compiling all of that information or all of those videos to then eventually push them out on other social media.
Yeah, that's a great idea. You know, so I don't have an Instagram.
Yeah.
I just really have a Facebook. I don't have Twitter or anything. Most of it was because I was sort of averse to social media, except like Facebook was one of those, you know, I'm 36. So when I was younger, like Facebook was, if you didn't have a Facebook, it was just, I don't know, felt like you were missing out on something. Though I will admit that I don't think Facebook is necessarily healthy for everybody.
Yeah.
I did stay away from a lot of social media, but if you're going to, you know, put these things out there, I think it'd probably be time to like get an Instagram set up, maybe a Twitter.
I think so. And I could start tagging you. So yeah, go ahead and find us at Smile Talk with Jacob on both Instagram and YouTube. So excited for everything that's to come. I know I'll ask to have you on again.
Oh yeah, I look forward to it.